Welcome back to This Explainer. Right now, we're going to walk step by step through what is honestly a terrifying logic chain. We're looking at a supreme paradox in modern geopolitics, how a military intervention that was explicitly intended to stop a nuclear program might have actually accelerated it. We're going to break down the hard data, the shifting political landscapes, and the historical precedents that make this nightmare scenario incredibly likely.
Okay, let's just dive right in. This is the supreme irony, the nightmare scenario that literally keeps intelligence analysts awake at night. The big fear isn't simply that the recent war failed to prevent Iranian nuclear weapons. No, the fear is that the war actually caused them to become a reality. To understand why, we really need to examine the cold, hard geopolitical math of the aftermath. Let's look at the 7-step chain of events that leads directly to this terrifying conclusion.
Step 1. The surviving stockpile.
So, before we even look at the politics, we have to look at the physical, material reality left in the rubble. 200 plus. That is the amount, in kilograms, of 60% enriched uranium that survived the bombings entirely intact. Now, while the military strikes definitely damaged various surface-level enrichment facilities, this massive stockpile was buried safely underground at Isfahan. It's accessible only through a highly protected, tiny opening. The actual seed for a nuclear weapon, which is the hardest part of the entire process to achieve, by the way, wasn't destroyed. It's still sitting right there.
Moving on to steps 2 and 3. The leadership shift.
Before the war, Iranian leadership actually included moderates and reformers. We're talking about figures like career diplomat Abbas Araghchi and President Masoud Pezeshkian. These were voices within the system who actively argued against developing nuclear weapons. But look at the post-war reality. The strikes killed the supreme leader, eliminated key IRGC special operations chiefs, and imposed a devastating blockade. So those moderates who urged restraint, they're entirely irrelevant now. What remains is a highly paranoid, heavily militarized IRGC in absolute control. And honestly, they have absolutely zero reason to ever trust any diplomatic promises again.
Which brings us to step 4, the ultimate geopolitical lesson.
History presents us with a pretty brutal set of outcomes. Just look at the experiences of countries like Libya, Ukraine, and Iraq. They gave up or halted their nuclear ambitions, and what was their reward? They faced invasion. Meanwhile, countries like North Korea and Pakistan kept or developed their arsenals, and they remain completely untouched. If you're a surviving general in the IRGC, comparing Iran's situation right now to the fates of Libya and Ukraine, well, the lesson is mathematically undeniable. Non-nuclear states face invasion. It's a crystal clear lesson about what actually keeps a regime safe in today's world.
And that lesson translates directly into one singular truth for the current leadership. Nuclear weapons are the absolute only guarantee of regime survival. Because they literally just watch their own country get bombed, the regime knows beyond a shadow of a doubt that conventional deterrence has completely failed. Having a robust conventional military just didn't stop the strikes. So building a nuclear bomb is no longer just some theoretical point of leverage for them, it's their only logical path to survival.
Next up, step 5, remaining capabilities.
So the really uncomfortable truth here is that their technical capability remains entirely viable. Like we mentioned earlier, they still have that completely intact stockpile of highly enriched uranium. But perhaps even more importantly, you can't bomb knowledge, right? They still have a surviving scientific workforce and deep, deep expertise in centrifuge production. And to make matters even more complicated, the IAEA, the global nuclear watchdog, actually lost continuity of knowledge on Iran's centrifuge production back in 2021. That means Iran has literally had years to produce centrifuges that no one tracked. It's highly likely some of those are operating at undeclared, deeply buried facilities right this second.
Steps 6 and 7, timelines and motivation.
Before the war, estimates suggested Iran could produce enough weapons-grade uranium for a bomb in just a week or two if they really decided to break out. Now, the strikes definitely damaged that immediate capability. However, with the surviving material and a massively heightened motivation, we're really looking at two distinct timelines here. If the IRGC initiates a crash program, meaning they prioritize pure speed over keeping it a secret, they could potentially produce a testable nuclear device in just 1 to 2 years. Alternatively, if they opt for a covert program, prioritizing extreme secrecy to avoid any more preemptive strikes while they build, it might take 3 to 5 years. But depending on their strategy, a testable nuclear device could be a reality in a chillingly short window.
And look, this isn't just a theoretical exercise pieced together in hindsight. This is the exact nightmare scenario that defense and intelligence analysts are frantically warning us about right now. As Ariana Tabatabai at the Chicago Council points out, their determination has only amplified. Sure, the infrastructure might be bruised, but the ideological and strategic drive to possess a nuclear weapon, it is stronger right now than it has ever been in the history of the country.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, we are left with a profoundly sobering thought. The moderates who fought against the bomb, they're gone. The hardliners who view it as their absolute only shield against suffering the exact same fate as Ukraine or Libya, they are in total control. The uranium exists, the scientific knowledge exists, and the motivation has been totally forged in the fire of these recent bombings. It forces all of us to ask, did the very war launched to stop nuclear proliferation act as the exact catalyst needed to guarantee it? That is the strategic paradox we absolutely have to navigate now. Thank you so much for joining me to unpack this complex issue. Keep questioning, keep analyzing, and I'll see you in the next explainer.